This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea. I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments. Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week, we are staying in France, but heading to the west coast, home of this week's future yacht, the dramatic ORC 52.2. Today we will 1. Review its specifications, pricing, and layout against 3 similar new vessels. 2. Do a full tour asking, what would Sylvia say? 3. Naval gaze at a technology or innovation that just might make life aboard a little easier. 4. Have a look at the used market for 3 to 5-year-old pre-owned comparables. And 5. Give it a Dave score and compare the result with all our previously reviewed yachts. As always, all this fun will be sandwiched between a pairing of wine and a work of art from the same region as the guest yacht, in an effort to capture the culture and people who gave birth to these wonderful vessels. Waves, wine, art, and ideas. What a civilized way to spend 30 minutes. So let's get going. From high above Vancouver, we head east across the Atlantic and the continent to the shores of La Grande Motte, home of last week's future yacht, the Outremer 48. From here, we hop across France to the west coast and the yards of Marsaudon Composites, birthplace of the dramatic ORC 52.2. From here, it is a quick drive down the coast to Sarzeau and the new winery Le Vignoble de Rhuys Dantelezh. For this week's wine pairing, Le Vignoble de Rhuys Dantelezh Chenin Blanc. No independent wine critic has yet scored a commercially released bottle produced within 50 miles of the ORC boatyard, so there is still no 90-point local wine. This is because Brittany's vineyards are brand new. The region only re-legalized commercial viniculture in 2016, and the first red and white still wines appeared in 2021-2022. Production is tiny, fewer than 20 hectares in bearing across Morbihan and Finistère. So estates usually sell everything direct, long before critics schedule blind tastings. However, we did find Le Vignoble de Rhuys Dantelezh Chenin Blanc, which has an informal score of 87 points from Vivino. Hidden between the Atlantic breakers and the placid Gulf of Morbihan, Le Vignoble de Rhuys Dantelezh is rewriting Brittany's vinous story. The estate was born in 2018 when the town of Sarzeau offered dormant coastal farmland to would-be vignerons. Champenois viniculture veteran Guy Aumonier and economic developer turned grower Marie Duveen won the tender, planted 25,000 vines in 2020, and bottled their first Dantelezh in 2022, a nod to both handiwork and the les fines sea breezes that temper the peninsula. The 1.5 hectare Sheen parcel sits on mica schist bedrock blanketed by sandy clay loam. Constant salt-tinged winds, long daylight hours at 47 degrees north, and soils enriched with crushed local oyster shells and seaweed keep the canopy disease-free and the grapes vibrant, acid-driven. Rows are grass-covered for biodiversity, and the vineyard is certified organic. For the 2023 Chenin Blanc Dantelezh, Bunches were hand-picked, slowly pressed for 3 hours in a pneumatic press, then fermented with native yeasts and stainless steel. The wine rested on fine lees through winter and was bottled unfiltered and unfined at 12%, preserving every briny whisper of its maritime origin. In the glass, the 2023 beams pale gold and opens with a sea spray snap of lemon zest, rhubarb, and crunchy green apple. The palate is citron tendu, layered with a bittersweet hint of grapefruit pith and a lingering mineral salinity that begs for oysters or Breton crepes. Having a look at our boat this week, oh my goodness, for a guy looking for a Mercedes GLS, this is the Ferrari California that I shouldn't be looking at but really, really want. Look at the lines of this vessel. Every aspect of it is so sexy, so beautifully refined. I mean, they have done an absolutely exquisite job at the redesign on this vessel. Every particular aspect screams speed, and fun. What are we going to compare it to? Well, this week we've got the Van R5, a little out of the envelope, but you'll see the connection. The Slider 55, which again is aluminum, the Explocat 52, which itself is also aluminum, and the ORC 52.2, which is most assuredly not aluminum. Looking closer at the ORC 52.2, I mean, every line on this thing screams speed and pure fun. Everything from that beautiful longeron out the front to the screaming low dagger boards to that seat, which you will see just a little. You've heard me gush over this when I was at Le Grand Mott. That seat and the way this vessel is helmed just makes me weep. The other things they've done to the coach roof and the lines there and the inset windows, wait till you see those. Heading on to the coach roof tops, we'll start with the Van R5. That black extension of the coach roof out the back over the cockpit can be a canvas or it can be a hard top, and it can also then be filled in to extend that saloon all the way back into a very large liveaboard saloon area. Large aft sugar scoops. You've got that very unique V katana style central winch setup in the middle of the hull at the aft there, and then wide side decks heading up. You could also have on the starboard forward area of the forward deck an inset lounge area, not accessible from the interior, but very congenial. The Slider 55. This is a wonderful yacht. I am dying to see this. The first hull will be started in July of 2025. I am wildly excited to see this come to fruition, because what they did with the Slider 49, and that was in carbon fiber epoxy, this is now all aluminum, and it doesn't look like aluminum in any way, shape, or form. And, you know, I'd like to comment here that aluminum is a true recyclable product. This is far greener than, say, a Windaloo, which has yes, it has a basalt fiber, but that's encompassed in an unrecyclable resin. So it's not really environmental. This is truly recyclable. And then going forward, you have good sized side decks. You can see the dagger board cases there midway up, and a really, really attractive setup with some incredibly innovative variations. The Explocat 52, you know, far more a typical Garcia. This is not a screamer. It doesn't have the KSP that the Slider 55 surprisingly does have, but a very capable, competent boat. Innovative little features like boot drying cupboards that are heated, and Fowley cupboards that are heated and ventilated. A beautiful forward cockpit that is accessible from the saloon. This is a true liveaboard, and now I understand they also offer a variation with an athwartship 3-side access berth, and you know what that means to me. Okay, let's dig a little deeper then into the ORC 52.2. This is a terrible render. My apologies, but you can get the gist of it. Look at how narrow those hulls are. That'll give you a sense of what we're dealing with here. This is, like I said, I'm a guy who should be shopping Mercedes GLSs, and I'm looking at a Ferrari California here and wishing that I could have two vehicles. It's just absolutely extraordinary. You'll see, it's hard to view here, but you will see really cool coach top to wall windows halfway up the coach roof, kind of like the old Discovery had in the back. Or the old Defender, in the back area, but really beautiful. I mean, no nonsense front area, massive trampolines, reducing the weight as much as possible. Not much of a foredeck area at all, but you can't really see it. Those two things pointing out from the aft area of each hull are your actual helm seats. And oh my gosh, you sit on those tilted out back, hand on a tiller, helming a tillering, I guess, a 52-foot screaming machine with your butt hanging over the water and your feet up on a pedestal area, and you're able to see all the way down that hull, all the way up. Oh, anyways, we'll get to it. It just is incredible. Okay, let's get into the accommodations here to a degree. The saloon area, the Van R5, really, really comfortable, very wide open, very minimalist. I don't know, it's very wide open and would worry me, I guess, in very heavy seas. Although this is a cat, it's not a monohull, but holy mackerel, there's a long way for you to be thrown across that saloon once you see it. They're using they're very, very focused on environmental, reusable areas. They're using cork. I'm not sure what that would do with my red wine when it splashes on there. I'm a little afraid. On the floor and the side decks, you can see now up in the foredeck on the starboard side, the lounge area there outside, the forward cockpit, really comfortable aft cockpit. Obviously very exposed aft helms, but I really like those. And they also then have the ability to, their Versa helm styles, they swing in and out. So a really nice setup, a very durable, very robust vessel that is focused on electric drive. This is a serial electric drive, so straight ocean volts with large battery bank and a range extender genset. The Slider 55 has a similar option to the Van R5 where you can extend the saloon to encompass the aft cockpit and create an incredible live-aboard space. Again, beautiful aft cockpit area, wonderful helms. They are not Versa helms. Marcus doesn't believe in those. You'll note only 2 winches because the actual main sheet is on a captive winch. And you can control that from right inside at that beautiful big forward-facing nav station you can see on the port side forward. You can see that lovely U-shaped galley port side aft, a really nice settee starboard side forward that's a U-shape that has that wonderful extension where you can sit your feet out and look out the aft door on into the cockpit. It's a beautifully done interior, and if the Slider 49 was any indicator, this will be an oyster level finish. Absolutely gorgeous. So really nice vessel, also a hybrid design. The Explocat 52, very standard layout. You get a beautiful big aft cockpit. You've got a very nice, I would say G-shaped galley, very secure there aft port. So in whatever weather, which is exactly where you're supposed to take this beast, you're secure. You have very nice forward-facing nav station, forward port. You've got saloon access to that outer forward cockpit, which I absolutely love. A very nice L-shaped settee, forward starboard. And although you can't see it here, aft starboard, you have cupboards in areas there where they have the heated and ventilated boot shoe area and Fowley's cupboard, which I think is brilliant and very attuned to the theme of this vessel. Let's dive in a little closer to our ORC 52.2. This beast is purpose driven. There is no allowance for luxury in this. It is driven to go fast and to appeal to the thrill seeker. It is, like I said, it's a Ferrari California. You can see still a good sized aft cockpit. You even have a forward-facing settee in the back between those winches. You've got your helms. As you can see, your butt is literally hanging over the side decks. And you can't see it here, but they're tilted back and you have a footrest. And you have a beautiful carbon fiber tiller. You literally have every sense and feel of a 52.2 foot yacht at your hand. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. You're able to see those telltales perfectly. You're able to see down the side of your yacht. You're able to feel the spray. I mean, the sense of involvement and excitement. This is just an exciting vessel. Look at the size of those nets up front. That trampoline is gigantic. You've got your life raft there. Just you can see it just in the aft section of the nets on the starboard side. But overall, very purpose driven. You walk in and you've got an L-shaped settee forward portish center, because you've got that day bed, and you'll see why that's there in a moment or two. You've got a very nice forward-facing nav, forward starboard, and then an L-shaped galley that extends right across the aft wall of the saloon here. Hopping into the accommodations, the Van R5, it's funny, on the initial renders, the owner's hull, which is on the port side there, actually had something of a three-side access to that berth, but now it's basically one side. So it's an athwartship butt scoot, which is probably the worst of all, because your wife cannot make it out and over you if she's up against the aft bulkhead to get out and go to the washroom at night. You're going to be disturbed. I don't understand why in a vessel of this size with hulls this width that you would go for that configuration. But there it is. Very lovely, open, airy, hotel-like owner's hull on the port side there. Over to the guest hull, you have a fore-aft VIP berth that actually has cutouts, so you could get up and swing your legs out, get out without disturbing your partner. At the same time, you can make the bed with relative ease, and then forward you've got a sort of a large twin up in the forepeak there. The Slider 55, they have gone with fore aft butt scoot beds with some cutouts, so you can kind of wiggle your way up the side to a degree to make that bed. I wish they'd gone with an athwartship that had three sides, but there it is. A very nice little desk area there, and up into a highly generous head shower area. Very generous owner's hull there on the port side. On the guest hull, it's very nice. You've got a VIP in the fore aft in the aft of the hull, and then forward, instead of a tiny little sort of twin thing going on there, it looks like a decent sized double edging up on a queen there in the forepeak, and both have their own separate ensuite. So very, very comfortable environment. The Explocat 52, as I said, this does come now in an athwartship 3-side access. I have not seen the layout on that one yet, but here you have the fore-aft butt-scoot format. Owner's hull on the starboard side there. It's going to be very generous. This is a wide hull. And then you've got a beautiful big head and shower up front. Over in the passenger side or the guest side, you've got a very nice aft VIP and forward 2 singles that more than likely can be brought together in a good sized double with a filler cushion. Okay, we're going to zip down into the ORC 52.2. Now, I know I just finished beating up Van R5 for the athwartship 1-side access berth, but this is my Ferrari, and work with me on this one. That aft athwartship 1-side owner's berth on the starboard side, wait till you see the renders. It is freaking epic. If there was ever an excuse to have a 1-side athwartship in the aft, ORC has made the argument with the way they have set their ports in this hull. It's going to leave you gobsmacked. It's amazing. Trust me, wait till you see the renders. It is like sleeping outside. It's extraordinary. You've got a lot of stowage in there, but wait till you see how that stowage is arranged. Again, this is pure go. It's not luxury. It is pure functional go. Going up forward, you have a very nice shower and head area up in the front. Over to the port side guest hull, you have the VIP aft, again with a most extraordinary environment they've created on this 1-side athwartship berth. Up midship, you have a single berth. That's tucked in. That's below that pilot berth up in the saloon that we mentioned earlier. And then forward, you have a decent side double edging on it's a good sized double up in the forepeak there. Okay, let's get into the numbers. Heading across the top line here, you've got the Van R5 at a base price of 1.495 million euros, so 1.5 million euros. You have the slider at 1.8 million euros, the Explocat at 1.5 million euros, exactly the same as the van, and the ORC 52.2 at 1.1 million euros. Obviously, a very different cat, pun intended, but a good value for what you're getting, believe it or not. As we look across the actual length overall, the longest one here is actually the slider at 56.4. Then you've got the Garcia, the Explocat at 55.61. Then you've got the ORC at 56 feet even. Then the Garcia at 55.61, and finally the van at 49 even. Looking at the overall beam on these, the beamiest vessel here, they're very, very close, all of them. The beamiest one, it's going to be a tie between the Garcia and the slider, both at 26.9 feet. And actually the ORC is there as well, 26.9 feet. The van is just slightly less at 26.2, but given it is about 5 feet shorter, that gives you a sense of the living space you have on board that van in the dimensions. The draft on this, you've got 2 of the 4 that have dagger boards. So your lowest draft available here is the van at 1.35. The next one is going to be with boards up, the ORC and the slider tied at 1.4. and the Garcia then at 1.5. So very close to each other, save for the van. Bridge deck clearance. Okay. On this one, we are looking at the slider as the highest bridge deck at 3 feet even. And everybody else is at about 2'9", 2'8". Still decent bridge deck clearance. Light ship displacement. This is where you sort of sit up and take notice. ORC 52.2, a 52.2 foot yacht, and it's 9.9 tons light ship displacement. The next closest is the slider at 15.7, and then you've got the van at 18 even, and the Garcia at 18.6. Payload capacity now has some interesting variations here. The highest payload capacity, unsurprisingly, is the Explocat, the Garcia, at 5.7 tons, a significant payload capacity. Next up is the van, again unsurprising, at 4.5 tons. The next one, though, is the ORC, which I would have expected it to be way down the list, but its payload capacity is 3.6 ton, and then the slider is 3.3 ton. Your upwind sail area on this, the slider has a mammoth 2,368 square feet. You can only imagine what that does to the KSP. Next is the Garcia at 1,798. Next is the ORC at 15.68, and finally the van at 13.45. Looking at engines here, your van is at twin 30 kilowatt ocean volts. That's a pretty big electric motor. You're usually seeing 25, 20, 15 kilowatts. But they have not skimped when it comes to the size of their electric drive. The slider here, I have twin 57 horsepower diesels plus twin 20 kilowatt electric. Then the Garcia is twin 60 horsepower diesels, and the ORC is twin 40 horsepower diesels. Fuel tank capacity and water capacity. It's the slider in the lead at 1,000 liters and 264 gallons of both water and fuel. Next is the Garcia at 1,100 liters of fuel and 600 liters of water. Next is the van at 600 liters and 600 liters. And finally, the ORC at 400 liters and 400 liters. Looking across at capacities that I wish the manufacturers would be as good as Balance is on. Slider, not too bad. They give you their interior area here. It's 517 square feet. The ORC is sort of 538 square feet, and the Van R5 is 323 square feet. Looking at the total fridge capacity, I could only find it on the slider and the Garcia. So you've got a fridge capacity of 232 liters on the slider and 190 liters on the Garcia. And then freezer capacity is 144 liters on the slider and 180 liters on the Garcia. Looking at hull material here. Well, this one is very difficult to say one is better than the other. Obviously, durability, the aluminum hulls have it. You've got, 3 of the 4 are aluminum hulls. Having said that, the slider is a performance cruising catamaran, heavy on the performance if you can refer back to the KSP on this. And it's still aluminum, so it's almost the best of both worlds. And the ORC is a carbon fiber reinforced composite with foam core, vinyl ester epoxy resin infused. So it's a very strong hull, a very light hull. System voltage on these, you've got the van and slider at 48, the Garcia and ORC at 24. Battery banks on these. bear in mind, the really big volumes here are for the electric-driven ones. In the van has a massive lithium-ion capacity of 86.4 kilowatt hours, just huge. The slider has 30 kilowatt hours with a maximum of 40 kilowatt hours. The Garcia has an optional 36 kilowatt hours, so you could drive AC and everything you want on there. And the slider, with its Ocean Volt drive option, has 36.8 kilowatt hours. Otherwise, it's 15 kilowatt hours of lithium ion. Factory solar on these, on the van, you have 15.8 kilowatts of glass, absolutely massive. On the slider, you've got 3.8 kilowatts of flex. And on the Garcia, you have 1590 watts, or 1.59 kilowatts of walkable flex. And on the ORC, you have 990 watts, just below a kilowatt of a walkable. Okay, let's get to the performance numbers where the rubber hits the road. And here you've got some real surprises. Sail area to displacement, or an indicator of power. Highest number wins. The highest number, believe it or not, is the Slider 55, an all aluminum. One would have to say heavy performance, light on and a good cruising cat at 35.6. Next, just a hair behind, is the ORC 52.2 at 32.1. Then it's the Garcia at 24.1 and the Van R5, not surprisingly, at 18.5. The displacement to hull length, or an indicator of heaviness, here it's the lowest number wins, and it's the ORC way in the lead at 77.9, followed by the Slider at 93.9, then the Explo Cat at 136, and finally the Van at 168.5. And the KSP, the theoretical boat speed at a wind of 10 knots. Here's the big surprise. It's the Slider in the math that comes out just ahead at 97%. This is a 55-foot aluminum cat. Yet to be built, but there's the number. The ORC is next at 95%. This is obviously a wind speed boat. Next is the Garcia at 75%, and finally the Van at 63%. If you're enjoying the content, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Having said that, I'm never going to pay for a catamaran that will convince Sylvia to circumnavigate the globe with YouTube revenue. To that end, I hope you don't think ill of me if I seek the help of this audience to generate referrals for my company, REDUxEngineering. Redux helps $20 to $250 million tech and hard goods manufacturers in North America and Western Europe to reduce the cost of their parts and subassemblies by 20 to 50%, dramatically improving the health and strength of these small to medium-sized businesses. Our proprietary cost-down program combines design for manufacturing engineering inputs upfront with offshore sourcing and on-site quality control across a pre-vetted network of top-quality manufacturing partners in low-cost centers globally. We make it safe and simple for small to medium-sized manufacturers to access the savings that larger enterprise takes for granted. What's more, our model is contingency-based with no upfront costs or risk. If you would like more information, please check out our website. If you have people in your network who own or run this kind of manufacture and would be able to introduce me, please reach out at dorton@reduxengineering.com. Along with my gratitude, we have an attractive referral program that just may help your sailing budget in very practical ways. Hopping on board, what would Sylvia say? Well, Sylvia would just say no, but that doesn't stop me from dreaming. Look at these aft tillers and these helming seats. I mean, come on. Can you imagine the feeling of sitting there, hand on the tiller? Now, looking across the very comfortable cockpit, it's not lacking anything. It's just very sparse. Having said that, at least they've added in glass sliding windows for the saloon. Before it was a zip-up cover. This is just absolutely gorgeous as we head up the side. Now, a little navel gazing here. I was hunting down an artificial teak deck product that will not stain with, you guessed it, red wine. I also wanted to find a product that looked as real as possible and had a molded grain to provide as much, if not more grip than natural teak. I must be much lazier than the average sailor because grinding winches when there are simple and reliable power options and staring at bleached, rough teak decks that look 10 years old after one season just makes me crazy. I have no desire to pay someone to refresh my decks each year, and even less desire to do it myself, especially when there's a better option. In my search, I found a product called ISOTEAK synthetic PVC teak decking. Because the material is a solid 5mm PVC composite, it doesn't absorb a drop of liquid, wine, oil, or even fish blood rinsed straight off without leaving a shadow. That watertight structure stops mold before it starts, so routine care is a little more than a hose down. The molded grain and caulking lines mimic freshly sanded Burmese teak, and a palette of 10 color combinations lets you match classic decks or modern grays while a UV stabilizer keeps the tone true. The company backs that promise with a 5-year color-fast warranty. Functionally, the deep-cut texture delivers confident grip wet or dry and stays pleasantly flexible underfoot, eliminating the splinter risk of aging timber. Panels arrive pre-welded and bonded, so installation is a clean, just glue it operation. No screws, no deck perforations, no specialist tools. And because ISOTEAK is 100% PVC with no EVA foam, it remains dimensionally stable from winter frost to tropical heat, giving cruisers a beautiful, low-maintenance teak that's ready to sail anywhere. So why would I spend money on real teak? Back on board, again looking my favorite part of this vessel, those seats, heading forward past those staggeringly beautiful dagger boards and just the shape and everything of this coach roof top. Look at this longeron heading down the port side here. You can see those beautiful sunroofs in the edge of the cabin top there. Very distinctive, very Defender-esque. What a fabulous aft cockpit area again here as we circle back around and look into the saloon area. Absolutely gorgeous. They finished even the bottom of the coach roof with a little indirect lighting and lighting strips. Very nicely done. Huge opening into this gorgeous saloon area. You know, very, very sparse. There's that really neat daybed area over on the port side there, but obviously not exactly my taste from what you know of me. So here's a little more navel gazing. I used a little ChatGPT action here and added a little bit of what I'd like to see. Anyways, never mind. Here we are. Beautiful forward opening windows here like we saw in the 48. So lots of airflow through. Lovely, luscious curves. The French do such a good job at this overall industrial design on the main deck here. We're going to head down into the starboard side here, and here we are in the owner's cabin. Now, get a load of these cupboards. They aren't cupboards. They are zip-over mesh to reduce weight. Now, I sacrifice with a little foam core and some veneer, but bless their hearts, they have a theme here and they are sticking to the theme. Now, wait, here we go. Hold on to your seats. Look at this athwart ship, beautiful owner's berth. Do you see what I mean when I said I tolerate this one side access just because of this? It's freaking like you're sleeping outside. I mean, have you ever seen anything this extraordinary? You have that beautiful vent right above the head of your wife there against the back wall, and you have visibility when you wake up. It's like, you know what? This is like the Neil, if not better than the Neil Catamaran. You can wake up, pop your head up, see exactly where you are and avoid that concern, especially if you drop maybe a plotter somewhere in here as well, just for another look. But wow, what an absolutely stunning berth. Okay, we're going to swing around here and head down the owner's hull into the aft head here. Again, a beautiful environment. The mirror there with backlighting behind it, indirect lighting, a very purposeful design here. I sort of like the latches there. I'm not big on the leather and the material latches, but they execute so well here. Very nice separate shower stall, just beautiful. Okay, we're going to come up and over and into the passenger side here. So heading down the stairs, again, there is your VIP berth. I mean, you'd never get your friends out of this berth. What an absolutely gorgeous environment. And we're going to spin around here and head up the hull here, and there is that single pilot berth tucked under the day bed up in the saloon. And again, look below it. There are your cupboards with your zip over covers. Very interesting. I'm not exactly sure why you need this, which brings up our third naval gazing. And, here is, as you can see, the layout as it currently stands. You've got the day bed in the saloon. You've got the pilot berth in the hull below. Don't know why you need it. I would, if I were ORC, at least offer an old man luxury version trying to get their youth back. Let's call it that. It's a long tagline, but it works. So I would use a version that has veneers. You could do a beautiful American walnut, very similar to an Amel. You have that sort of design and feel inside, and it wouldn't add a lot of weight. You could do the foam core cupboards instead of the mesh linings. This wouldn't be very difficult to do in a production line. This is a little more difficult because I believe it probably changes the mold, but I don't see any need for that day bed, and I don't see any need for the pilot berth below it. What you could do is get rid of that, extend your saloon out to the port side and have a beautiful big settee in a C shape with that return that I love, where I can stick my feet out aft and look out the aft doors. And then have a very Outremer-esque coffee table that transforms into a dining table. If for some reason you want to eat inside, that would really open up the entire environment inside the saloon there. Outside in the cockpit, you can see that the settee to the starboard side has been moved inboard, aligning the table with an extension with the aft settee, giving you seating for a lot more people. But more importantly, if you flip over to the hull side here, the accommodations, you can see that in the aft of the starboard hull, the owner's hull, I have actually moved the athwartship berth inward, giving two-side access, the forward side and the starboard foot of the bed, so that you could get around and could get out without disturbing your partner and still have those amazing windows. In fact, the windows would get even bigger, if you can imagine that. I think that would be extraordinary. And then on the guest side, you have the typical two berths, because you've just gotten rid of that pilot berth and you've extended your hull forward. Now, before we move on, let's flip back and forth a couple of times so that you can see exactly how that works. Now, the other thing I would do is in that forepeak on the port side, I would do exactly what Outremer does with their My Free Space and offer these options, these wonderful options in that forepeak for the liveaboards among us. So you'd swap this out for that lovely My Free Space. Okay, back on board. We're just having another look, backing out at how beautiful this vessel is and how wonderfully freely she flies along with me at the helm, but I've still got hair. And the tan on the tiller, the sun on my face. Oh my gosh, I love this vessel. If I could only have two boats. Okay, what do we compare this with in our pre-owned comparables? Let's bear in mind for our comparable pricing, we take the base price and add 50%, and that's our assumed sail away price. First up, we have a 2023 Katana Ocean class. So we're looking at a 2-year-old vessel, pure vinyl ester hull, very nice performance boat, not as pretty in any way, shape, or form as the ORC, but great space in here. They have encapsulated that aft cockpit in a very usable, openable format, almost similar to Bali, but without the garage door scenario. So this is a great vessel. They're asking 1.137, 1.14 versus 1.782 for the ORC 52.2, a brand new one. You know, for my application, obviously, I'd have to go with the Katana on this. But in my heart, I would go with the ORC. If I could have two, I'd have the Katana and the ORC. I just wouldn't tell Sylvia about the ORC. Next up, we got a 2023 Outremer 52, beautiful vessel, 2 years old. They're asking 1.950 versus the 1.782. Now, naturally, you would immediately say the Outremer. And yes, the Outremer certainly, their saloon is far more luxurious. You sort of lose some of that as you head into the hulls because you don't have the same shapes and stuff. And the ORC is the opposite. You have a very sparse saloon, and then you get into the hulls to that owner's berth, and holy macaroni. So, I've got another 200 grand that I could play with here, and a brand new boat. I could put that 200 into a liberal application of veneers, and I might have exactly what I want, and oh, so sexy. So I'm going to give it to the ORC, believe it or not, on this one. Next up, we've got a 2018 Balance 526. So we are looking at a 7-year-old vessel. They're asking 1.4 versus our 1.782. Now, obviously, I would have to go with the Balance on this because of my project. That doesn't mean that in my heart, I wouldn't still want a secret ORC 52.2 berth somewhere that Sylvia didn't know about. Next up is a 2020 HH50. So this is a 5-year-old boat, beautiful boat at 1.7 million. Versus our 1.782. I'm sorry, I'd have to go with the HH on this. It's almost a perfect boat. Carbon, epoxy, lots of luxury, beautiful real wood veneers. I'm not a fan of the berth configuration, and I'm in love with the ORC 52.2 berth, but I'd have to give this to the HH. And finally, we've got a 2021 Windelow 50 for 1.120. This is a 4-year-old vessel versus our 1.782. If I had the cash, I'd probably go with the ORC. But this is a pretty cool vessel. And Sylvia would definitely go with this one. Okay, monohull heresy. What do we compare this to among monohulls? Bearing in mind, we add 20% tour length so that we have a vaguely comparable living space in a monohull. And first up, we've got a 2023 Jeanneau 65 with the hardtop. Gorgeous vessel, 1.672 versus my 1.782. Obviously, I'd have to do the Jeanneau 65. It's a liveaboard. It's a true liveaboard versus trying to commute in my Ferrari, California. Next up is a 2022 Dufour 61 3-year-old vessel. They're asking $1,080,000. Again, not as much as the Jeanneau 65, but I would still have to pocket the 700 grand and go with this one for my liveaboard excursions. Next up is a Nador Swan 65 2019. They're asking $4.6 million. Not a hope in Hades. I would do the ORC and, save $3 million. Next up is the 2021 CNB 66, so a 4-year-old vessel. They're asking about $2 million versus our 1.782. This is an awful big boat. Now you're getting into monohulls that, I've already heard of a couple that got killed on one of these doing it themselves. Now it was a freak storm, all that good stuff. They did have 2 crew, but it's an awful big boat. Certainly would be more comfortable to live aboard. I'll give the nod to the CNB and spend another 2. Next up is a 2022 Beneteau Oceanus Yacht 62. So a 3-year-old boat, they're asking 1.35 versus our 1.782. Again, for my live aboard and my wife and my Sylvia, it would have to be the Beneteau. Okay, the Dave score. How did she do? Well, predictably, down, 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 down. There she is. But this does not reflect my emotional attachment to this vessel. It's just the fact that it's such a purpose-built vessel, and it's not built for my purpose, at least. It's built for my imaginary purpose. So the ORC 52.2, elegance, interior, of course it's a 5. Exterior is an 8. I mean, elegance. A broad meaning, but those chairs... There's 2 things about this vessel, 3 things that drive me absolutely over the moon. The overall look of the vessel, it's just sex on water. Those aft helm seats and the tiller, sex on control. And those beautiful owner's berths with those incredible wraparound windows. I can't figure out how that relates to sex, but I'll leave it to you. Everything else is very purposeful. I mean, I wouldn't tolerate zip-up cover doors or anything like that nature, but there you have it. Comfort, interior is a 5. I mean, it's other than the owner's berth, it's very sparse. Exterior, it's a 4, very sparse. Quality, I'm going to give it a 7. Since Grand Large has purchased ORC, my guess is that this number should be at an 8 or a 9. But they did have some quality issues in the earlier models. So I'm leaving it a conservative 7 with the understanding this probably will be an 8 or a 9 once we get to know this vessel. Performance, obviously, it's a 9. Lazy sailor, it's a 5 or a 6. Condo, it's a 4. It's not a condo in any way, shape, or geek. There it is. It's a 9 or a 10. And value for money, for my purpose, 6. If you were a screaming sailor and a billionaire, this probably would be 9. With all that passion voiced there, let's get into some more passionate art. This week, we're looking at Claude Monet, Port-Goulphar, 1887. Claude Monet, a founder of Impressionism, spent 2 tempest-lashed months, September to November, in 1886, on Belle-Île, 38 kilometers off Lorient, producing 39 canvases that pushed his palette and brushwork to new extremes. Claude Monet reached Belle-Île in September 1886, lured by fishermen's tales of crazed rocks, the color of blood. At Port-Goulphar, he faced Atlantic gales that flung spray into his palette. Letters home described him lashing canvases to stakes and himself to the cliff rail so the wind would not snatch his easel. In Port-Goulphar, Belle-Île, 1887, the basalt buttresses rear like living creatures, their violet and vibrant plains fractured by foaming jade surf. Monet abandons polite seaside ideals for a raw dialogue with untamed nature. Pigment laid in quick, nervous slashes echoes the sea's violence, while luminous, arrested spray hints at Impressionism's deep pursuit of the instant held fast. Though no Mediterranean yachtsman, Monet arrived by Lorient steamer and relied on local mariners who rowed him to otherwise unreachable ledges. The painting thus embodies a tacit collaboration between painter and the Breton seafaring culture that shaped these coasts. Well, that's another week of waves, wine, art, and ideas. I do hope you enjoyed this one. Obviously, my passions disagree with my practical side and application, and I do wish I was a billionaire and could just hide this away in a little secret berth that I'd sneak off to all by myself. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got a couple of really cool boats coming up for you, so stick with us. I'll see you next week. Cheers.